Have you ever wondered how famous violinists can get their instruments to sound so beautiful? Or what that movement is with their wrist that gets this music to sound like it sings, almost like a human voice? The key to this sound is vibrato. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to do vibrato on the violin. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, what exactly is vibrato? And the best way to answer this question is just to show you. So as I play, be watching for the movement that I do with this arm and how it affects what you hear. That was an excerpt from Pachelbel's canon. You may recognize it. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, vibrato is a tremulous effect added for warmth and expressiveness by slight and rapid variations in pitch. The movement that I was doing with my arm was causing the rapid variations in pitch, which you could hear. So the steps to learning vibrato is really quite simple. The first step is to practice with a tool to simulate the movement. I like to use a shaker. Hold it in the arm that I play with. And I like to start with a big exaggerated movement. Exaggerate it at first, and then you can get smaller and smaller, like the movement in vibrato would be. The idea is to stay rhythmic and steady and keep it constant. The next step is to repeat the movement on the violin, but without the bow, just so you can get a feel for it. So like this. Move up and down the neck of the violin, exaggerate it at first, and then get smaller and smaller to where all you're moving is your finger, which is how vibrato should be. The third step is to practice with a bow to understand the sound along with the feel. It's not going to sound pretty at first, but then the last step, which I'll move on to in a second, is to refine the movement. So, when you move on to the last step, which, as I mentioned, is to refine the movement to get the expressive sound that you want in the first place, you can keep doing it exaggerated, but the idea is to do as little movement as possible. And practice it with all four fingers. So, another thing you should know before you get started is that there are two types of movement to vibrato. The first is the arm vibrato, which is from the elbow up, and it looks like this. You would use that kind of vibrato for a more dramatic or bolder sound, and you use it for longer notes. The second type of vibrato is wrist vibrato, which looks like this. Where I'm only moving from my wrist up. This type of vibrato is better for shorter notes, where you want to use a little less of your arm to get the note down. If you're ever experiencing any type of problem and you run into things like you can't get the right sound or feel, it's best to move back to the first step, practicing with the shaker. Make sure you have each step down before you move on. It's really important that you learn them correctly for the first time before you move on, and that way you can get it down and you get it right the first time. If you learn it wrong the first time and you keep moving on, it's really hard to go back and fix it. Another thing a lot of people have problems with, including me, is stiffness. If you don't have the right relaxation that you need for vibrato, it's really hard to stay steady and constant without doing jerky movements and making it sound kind of choppy. Again, move back to the first step. You can also do simple arm stretches to loosen up, and just to loosen up your muscles and get the relaxation that you need. So we've talked about the 4 steps to learning vibrato, which is to practice with a tool to simulate the movement, to repeat the movement on the violin without the bow so that you can understand the feel of it, and then to practice on the violin with the bow to understand the sound. The last step is to refine the movement so that you can achieve that expressive sound that you originally wanted. You're not going to get the desired sound right away. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of time to get it right. But remember that practice makes perfect. Thanks for listening, and good luck with your vibrato.